I was born in Kilgore, Texas, way back in 1936. Well, it was pretty small at the time. My father was an oil field worker. My mother was a poor housewife with four children under 5 years of age. Everybody was poor. And what was so strange was that everybody was poor, but yet we were in a very rich time during the oil field boom from the late 20s to early 40s. And so we were really quite wealthy. My dad was a driller. A driller is the foreman of the oil rig. Very hard time, and to top things off, he fell off the porch. Probably had been hitting the Jack Daniels a little bit, knowing my dad in later years, but broke his leg, and so he was cooped up with four children under 5 years of age. Father's name was Rush Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, a rather unusual spelling, and my mother's name was Beatrice May. Just as quick as we could get out of there, we left. When I was in the fifth grade, we moved to Kennedale. Mom had enough, and she told my dad, it's it's my way or the highway, I believe is the way the expression goes. But she just had enough. She couldn't take it physically nor mentally. So she went to her brother, who lived in Kennedale, and borrowed enough money to buy a house in Kennedale. We were all poor that lived in the town, but nobody cared. We had good friends. We played a lot. We didn't have the toys they have today. We just had a good time. You know what we did? We went crawdadding. I don't know if you've ever crawdadded. Some people call it crayfish. We call it crawdadding, and there was a building across the street from my mother's and father's home, and it was a telephone building, and they circulated water to keep the ground moist, I guess, for the building, certainly not for the crayfish. And the fish, we would go over there and get a strip of bacon from the fridge, go over, tie a string around it, catch crawfish, go home, cook it. And it wasn't bad. Had two sisters and one brother. Brother and I were very close after we grew up. We weren't that close growing up. Who wants their little brother tagging along? And he joined the Navy right out of high school and went to California. And we went about 18 months without ever seeing him because he was out on the waters during the Korean War. So I remember that my grandfather, my mother's father, he had diabetes, and back in those days you really couldn't treat diabetes like you can today. But he was a great man. He loved his grandchildren, and he loved to take us out in the front yard and sit around like a little choir, and he'd lead the singing and we'd sing. He was quite a guy. I went to Poly High School because Kennedale only had 10 grades, and after you finished the 10th grade, then you had to transfer. As the principal of Poly High School referred to us as that riffraff from Kennedale, we get them every year. Such is life. My favorite subject was recess. I was really not a good student, and I was an extremely mischievous child. I think I may have told you that story. A fellow by the name of Claude Bedford. Now, you know, a guy named Claude Bedford was a bully. I mean, that's just the name itself meant I'm a bully and get out of my way. But it wasn't any fun after the first couple of times that he whipped up on me. It wasn't any fun anymore. You know? He just had his fun and go get somebody else. First time I saw her was right out Random Mill Road, just up the street there. Precinct Line Road is now Random Mill Road as it crosses Highway 10. That was my first visit with Hearst, Texas. Harvey Carlin and I were good buddies at Kennedale, and his dad was a slave driver, and so we'd do everything we could to help Harvey because it freed him for us to go get into either some kind of meanness or play ball, one of the two. And one cold winter night, he told Harvey, take that load of pigs and take them to a town called Hurst, Texas. And Harvey called me, or probably walked over to my house. I don't think we had cars, but one car per family. And Harvey called and said, can you go with me? I said, man, I've never been on that road in my life. The part that I remember is having a flat on the bridge that crosses over Random Mill Road. Had the flat and got it changed and headed north again and ran into this strip of concrete. And that strip of concrete was what is now Highway 10. And you know where the Bell helicopter plant is, and we wound up somewhere in that area. And it was cold and miserable, but you know, we were kids and we didn't care. We were just having a great time, part of life, another big adventure. So we got further north on Random Mill Road, and this horrible stench came forth. We found out later that there was a pig farm where the entrance was into Marsdale Estates. And that's what we were smelling, was the excrement and the slop. Got in the pickup and somehow got back home, and we survived that and marked it down as training, and didn't make any more pig trips, though. I just remember, the thing that I remembered about Hurst was that horrible stench. It was horrible. Graduated from Poly in 1954. From 54 until I married Sue, I just did kind of bum jobs. However, I was a very hard worker. I worked, except when it came to cracking the books. I just didn't like to study. Cresses wanted me to become a part of their management team, and I revealed that at the year 12, my 12th year in school. And they said, "Come on, you'd make a great Cresses manager." And at Cresses, we had a freight elevator that opened up to the sidewalk. And it was always hot in the summertime. The store wasn't even air conditioned. And so we'd step out on the sidewalk, push the elevator door down, and there stood the recruiting sergeant. Just happened to be walking by, I mean, purely coincidental. And he said, "You about ready to join up?" And I said, "No way. I'm not going to be a soldier." And he said, well, let's talk about it. I told him I wanted to fly. If I joined, I would join the Air Force. The recruiting sergeant said, "Why don't you fly helicopters?" And helicopter was brand new back in 1954. Nobody flew helicopters. But I said, that sounds pretty interesting. He said, "Well, you come on out and let me talk to your parents." He said, "I believe you've got the material to be a helicopter pilot." Well, never saw a helicopter, never saw one. I was a medic and went to Germany virtually out of basic training, although I did complete the equivalent of an LVN, licensed vocational nurse, at Fort Hood, and then went to Germany. And was stationed at the 97th General Hospital, big hospital in Germany. And since I was trained to be a nurse, they thought I should be an X-ray technician. And it sounded a little more exciting than emptying bedpans. And that's what I did for 2.5 years in Germany, and loved it, absolutely. I played a little softball. I was a great softball player. We had an outstanding team. We had places from all over the northern or the European theater, and people would call and say, "Hey, y'all come play us. We can give you a good game." And we got word that Billy Graham was going to be up to be X-rayed. He had had a kidney stone on a previous crusade, and he was going to be up. And now when he comes up, you got to be reverent and be quiet, and and like he's one step under the Pope is what he is. Well, he comes in and he is the nicest, happiest jovial individual that you'll ever meet. Just a super, super guy. And it was probably the second best thing that happened to me. It was becoming a soldier. Got GI benefits when I got out. Spent 2.5 to 3 years in Germany. Got to travel, got to see the world. It was really great. And I kind of began to grow up a little bit. When I got out of the military, I did enroll in a pre-med program. And that was when it dawned on me that I just wasn't smart enough. I always wanted to be a doctor. And I thought that'd be the greatest job in the world. But I wasn't willing to do what it took to be a doctor. You know, my son's a physician. And I see what he went through to become a physician. No wonder I didn't make it. Second time I enrolled at TCU and bombed out at TCU. They were tough. Then eventually I went back, 40 years later and got my degree from TCU. Still didn't make it to med school. And I don't know that I ever will now. I needed to date one Saturday night, and I love to tell her this story. Nobody else was available, so I called you. So some way I wound up meeting Sue, my wife, and we married some 2.5, 3 years later. Her maiden name was Davis, Virginia Sue Davis, and her father and I were just the best of buddies. We just couldn't have been any closer. We got married in 1960, and the first child was born in Greenville, Texas. And we decided to come back to this area, and so we were out looking for houses, and John Barfield, great guy, he was building some houses around. We bought a little 3-bedroom, very tiny, maybe 800 square feet, and that was our first home here in Hurst. So we decided we found a nice little home only about 6 blocks north of where we were living on Oakwood Street, 728 Oakwood. And then we went from there up to far north of Hurst, where we currently have for 40-something years. That's how we got to Hurst. Pig farm was still there, but some way, somehow, may have been John Barfield. He may have bought that pig farm and developed it, and it stunk for months. No, it stunk for years. Wind would get out of the north and get a cold, hard rain, and it was terrible. It was terrible. As I remember, there was one car dealer. Now, why in the world a car dealer would set up a car dealership at Bedford Euless Road and Precinct Line Road back in the late 60s, I'll never know, but he did. Helm Larry, and Helm Larry Ford was the name of it. Oh, and there was one car parts store, and that's all that I remember being in Hurst. There was an A.L. Davis grocery store. There were 3 businesses of any size, and that was the 3. Lots of churches, still are lots of churches, which is good. All the streets were paved. They weren't well maintained, and the curbs were broken down, and potholes weren't repaired, but the streets all had some kind of pavement on them. There was Bell High School, which was a small school named after Lawrence D. Bell, who was the owner of Bell Helicopter. And then we had a couple elementary schools. I don't remember where they were. And Sue worked for Bell Helicopter, made very good money. I went to school and did odd jobs around. Had a great opportunity and would have moved up with that company, except the oil bust hit. And with the oil bust, lots of jobs. I went back to school. Went back to school night and day and got a degree in 2 years. And then applied for a job at Medical Plaza Hospital in Fort Worth, which was the elite hospital. Served wine with their meals. and did very well there. I was a personnel director. And as fate would have it, if you don't get along with your boss, one of you is going to go, and usually it's you, not the boss. But I applied for a job at Parkland Hospital in Dallas and worked for them for 4 to 5 years, somewhere along there. That was a fun job. Lots of residential growth. Hearst has always been the city that people wanted to live in. You know, we're HEB, Hearst, Euless, and Bedford, and we've always had a rivalry that, not a mean rivalry, we just tried to outdo each other. Well, people began to realize that Hearst was the better of the cities. So we moved in, people began to move into Hearst as opposed to Euless and Bedford. And we used to be the third largest city in Tarrant County. We're now probably the 14th largest city in Tarrant County. It's amazing how, but they caught up with us. We became landlocked. Bob Hampton, you interviewed, played a large part in seeing that Northeast Mall was developed, and then the automobile dealerships came in. Hearst is not an industrial city, and were it not for retail and the sales tax, we wouldn't exist. But there's been something about Hearst that has drawn people. People come out and look, and people across the street from us, even a better example, my house is block A, B, C, D, and all 4 houses that touch my land property went on the market on virtually the same day. And they were gone within 3 days. Hearst attracts people. I think it has a lot to do with our city government. I went to a campaign rally that was called because my name was becoming a little better known. And we ran what we thought was going to be a campaign hoorah, and it turned out it was a draft Richard Ward for the city council. So I jumped in there and ran for the city council, won quite handily. And what was so bad, Roby, is the guy that I defeated, and Ralph Hill, nicest guy in the world, and our son had an ear infection, and we didn't have the money to have the prescription filled. So he just gave me the prescription and said, pay me when you can. And then 15, 20 years later, I defeated him in a city council race. But he was still a great guy. Always will be, always will. I defeated Bill Souter by 3 votes, and it was an extremely bittersweet victory. It hurt Bill, but Bill was, in all fairness, Bill had been mayor long enough. He was a great guy, and I love him to pieces. He's always kind of been known as Mr. Hearst, and he was to the old Mr. Hearst. Since I've been mayor, what the building you're sitting in right now is the result of my efforts. Certainly, I contributed to it being built, certainly not totally responsible. The senior center apartments right next door, 2 beautiful fire stations, a library that is, we think second to none, a justice center, a new city hall, a Hearst Conference Center, which is just phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, be sure and see it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful building. Maybe that's why people, when they come in here, they buy us so quickly, because we have so many amenities. Widening of roads, better roads. So I look at all the things that have happened while I've been mayor. It's been pretty big. It's been a lot of activity. we've done well, and I wouldn't even think about trying to take full credit for it, but I certainly am going to take a little bit of credit. We work unbelievably well. And I don't know if that's because of my leadership or they say, let's just show him. I don't know, but they are really, we work just what a great team. Now, don't misunderstand that to think that we don't fuss and fight, because we do, but we never fuss and fight in public. We made that pledge. We would never fuss or fight in public. And in the 15 years I've been mayor, we haven't. I've used the gavel one time to quieten a person down, and he got in the face of one of our staff. So I reached over and picked up the gavel and whacked it very hard. I'd never used it. I didn't have any practice. I'd never had to use it. That was roughly 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 7 or 8. But he jumped a mile. Everybody in the building jumped a mile except me, and that we got the issue resolved. Had a great time with the Peewee Football Association. They were just great, great bunch of little kids, great parents, and if you sold enough coupons, if the kids won a trip to see the Cowboy game, the kids won a trip to see the Cowboy game. And that, to me, was a big thrill, because it just thrilled the kids to death. Then Scoutmaster, and it was a Cub Scoutmaster. I enjoyed working with the kids. Kids were great. The kids, once again, you get a bunch of 6th grade kids with a 35 to 40-year-old man, and they're going to push you as far as they can, and I'm the most pushable 40-year-old that there is. The kids just loved me, and so we started having lessons outside if it wasn't raining, anything to keep the kids quiet so that the parents could have their Sunday school lessons. But that worked out well. That was a good ride. We were the couple of the year in Big Brothers Big Sisters. So my wife and I were, and that was a high honor. I have the neatest kid that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, he is every father's dream. And I was determined that he was not going to make the same mistakes that I made as far as studying and what have you. So he didn't, and he went to med school and is now the chief medical officer of a 17-hospital chain in Omaha, Nebraska. Highly responsible, almost as responsible as a mayor's job. When he was about in the 8th grade, he began to show a little bit of interest in medicine. So at the time, I was a medical instrument salesman, and I called on the Southwestern Medical School in Dallas, and I would take him with me. And he got to see autopsies and brain removals and all kinds of things that he got to see. And he always knew he was going to be a doctor. There wasn't any question about it. My daughter-in-law, and I need to give her credit, she has a master's degree in nursing. Let me tell you first about my granddaughter. She just passed the bar, and she's now a practicing attorney. My grandson is in his senior year of law school. And then I have another grandson, old Matt. He's a neat kid. He's a great kid. He's going to enroll in flight school. I think I've had a huge impact on Hurst, but I didn't set out to do that. I set out to be a servant of the city and to be available when citizens need me. I have no idea what the employees think of me. I hope they like me. I didn't set out to make friends. I set out to run a city. But I hope that I've done what the job calls and entails. It's just a great place to live. It's a great place to live. 55 years I've been in Hurst. And I came to to make a home for, we didn't know how long, but we found the lot we wanted, and we built the home, and we love the home, and we love the people. I know I went to a funeral the other day, and an old, long-time friend, and the preacher, the pastor, got up and said, Mr. Knotts was a good man. And that's what I want them to say about me. Richard was a good man. Not was a good mayor, was a good man. So, and living in Hurst gives me more of an opportunity to be a good man.